Thursday, June 26th edition of PFT PM. There's still plenty happening in the NFL, even though we are getting closer and closer to what is the low water point of the offseason. This is about the weekend, going into 4th of July, and then after that, we start ramping up to the inevitable launch of training camp. News that came today from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Extensions for General Manager Jason Licht and head coach Todd Bowles. Multi-year extensions. That's all we ever get from the teams. We don't get the specific number of years. We don't get the specific number of dollars like we do with players. But what we know is the Buccaneers are happy with both guys. Licht has been there a long time through plenty of coaches. Bowles has been there as defensive coordinator, and then he took over after Bruce Arians retired following the unretirement of Tom Brady. And they have been quietly one of the best teams in the NFL. They haven't made it past the divisional round since winning the Super Bowl to cap the 2020 season. But when you look at the last 5 years, it really is the best 5 years that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had. Now, Bowles wasn't the coach when they won the Super Bowl, but he's coached the team for 3 straight division championships. And I think they're a team that needs to be taken seriously heading in to 2025. My first reaction when I saw the news, there goes what could have been a viable landing spot for Bill Belichick in the NFL. And I think back to December of this past year, Lombo, a.k.a. Mike Lombardi, the consigliere for Bill Belichick and also the general manager of the UNC football program, he was trying to retire Todd Bowles. He was spreading a rumor that Todd Bowles may retire, and Bowles eventually said, "What the hell are you talking about? I'm not retiring." He's definitely not retiring. He's got himself an extension, which also means that the Buccaneers, who do have a history of doing some nutty stuff when it comes to the coaching position, some unpredictable things. That's why I said you never know what the Bucs are going to do. If they had an unsatisfying season, maybe coaching change, maybe Bill Belichick now, unless they're willing to write Todd Bowles a big-ass check to go away, that will not be happening, which may close off the only avenue, the only potential avenue that Belichick would have had back to the National Football League. So the bottom line is the Buccaneers keeping the band together, moving forward, and trying to get back to the postseason, advance beyond the divisional round. And they are a team, and you look at their talent. They're easy to overlook. We should not be overlooking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Lions, the 49ers, the Eagles, the Rams, the best teams in the conference need to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers very seriously. On the other side of the spectrum, no one is taking the Cleveland Browns very seriously as a team that would be likely to win this year, but they've secured a victory as it relates to their effort to get out of downtown Cleveland and build a dome stadium in suburban Brook Park. Not only do they have $600 million in state money to help pay the cost of this $2.4 billion stadium, they got a dispensation from the Ohio legislature under the terms of the Art Modell law. And that was a law that was put in place after the Browns moved to Baltimore. Basically, there's a mechanism that gives a local buyer an opportunity to purchase a team that is going to relocate from its current Ohio home. What the legislature has done, because there were multiple lawsuits pending over whether or not the Browns could move from Cleveland to suburban Brook Park without complying with the terms of the Modell law and giving some local owner the opportunity to buy the team and keep them in Cleveland. What the Ohio legislature did, they've amended the law to say, as long as you're moving in Ohio, you're okay. This is about keeping teams not from leaving Cleveland for Brook Park, but not from leaving Cleveland or from leaving Cleveland for some other state other than Ohio. So that's how they're getting around it. And it does introduce an interesting wrinkle, because what it does for the Browns and the Bengals, in theory, it opens up the rest of Ohio. And my first thought was, hey, if the Bengals don't get what they're looking for in Cincinnati, they could move to Columbus or Dayton. Those are the only other 2 cities that would be even remotely viable. Columbus could be very viable. The problem is the Bengals would become number 2 in Columbus to The Ohio State University. But that's what this law will do. It will allow both the Browns and the Bengals to traipse around Ohio if they want to. They just can't leave Ohio without complying with the Modell law. And that brings me to the Bengals, because if they will eventually be moving to Columbus, it won't be happening within the next 10 years or so. According to the Cincinnati Enquirer, there is a deal to keep the Bengals in Paycor Stadium through the middle of the 2030 decade. And there aren't a lot of specifics yet. But what we knew was a deadline was approaching for June 30 for the Bengals to either extend their lease by a short period of time or not extend it, which meant that after next year, after next season, it would have expired. And it would have allowed the Bengals to be basically geographic free agents. Katie Blackburn, the daughter of Mike Brown, said back in March, we supposedly or apparently or presumably could go wherever we want. Well, now they have a deal to keep the Bengals around, but it's not a long-term. You know, a lot of times you want to see 20, 30 years. And there was some reporting not long ago about the terms that had been exchanged by Hamilton County and the Bengals. I think the Bengals wanted a 5-year lease. The county wanted something at least 20 years. Looks like they found a middle ground. And it looks like they've found a way to continue to do business, not over the long haul. Like if you give somebody a new stadium or a significant renovation, it's usually like a 30-year term. This is a shorter deal, and we'll be doing this again 7, 10 years from now. If I'm still covering the NFL, if I'm still alive, if the NFL is even still around, I assume it will be. I assume the answer to all three of those things is yes, but we shall see. All right, a couple of other things happening in the NFL. One, and I saw this yesterday, the email that was sent out by the company that was scheduled to have on Saturday of this week a football camp in Pittsburgh with George Pickens as the primary attraction. It was the George Pickens Youth Football Camp. They sent out an email explaining that after Pickens was traded to the Cowboys, Pickens initially said, yeah, I'll still do it. And then last week, this company was told that Pickens is bailing out. And they trashed him in this email. I mean, they over the top, irresponsible, yada, yada. I don't remember the exact words, but we have a link to the email in the PFT story. They crapped on George Pickens for changing his mind and breaking his word to the organizers of the camp about showing up. But what they've done, they postponed it by 3 weeks from June 28th to July 20th, and gotten Steelers tight end Pat Freiermuth to replace George Pickens. And that's fine. That's great. Good job by Freiermuth. Now, look, some of these camps that we see this time of year are free. Some of them are for profit. And I did some searching before we wrote our story. The George Pickens camp was $150 per kid for a 4-hour event on a Saturday in late June. And I also read the email very carefully. And even though they offer some concessions to the people who have purchased the tickets to the George Pickens Youth Football Camp that won't be happening, I didn't see anything in there offering a full refund. And you know, all of the vitriol directed to Pickens obscures the fact that the organizers probably should have said to the people right away, last week when they found out Pickens wasn't coming, hey, this is canceled and we're going to refund your money. Instead, they did a little bit of a bait and switch and they said, we're postponing it until July 20 and we're bringing you someone other than George Pickens. And look, I don't know whether or not the kids whose parents signed them up for this thing are going to be fine with it being Pat Freiermuth. They signed up for George Pickens. So, look, I just feel like there's more to this. And I'm not thrilled with the way that the company that is conducting this camp went about it. Because I think if nothing else, given what happened, they should offer a full refund to anybody who signed up for the June 28 George Pickens Youth Football Camp, not the July 20 Pat Freiermuth Youth Football Camp. We'll see if they do. Hopefully they will. And hey, if they had a proper contract in place with George Pickens and they have financial damages because of it, they could pursue some sort of relief if they want to. I don't know how buttoned up their operation is, but it wasn't buttoned up enough to deliver George Pickens. And shouldn't you know when the guy gets traded? At some level, don't you know that this probably isn't going to happen? So hopefully they'll make it right by letting the folks who paid for George Pickens get their money back. And if they want to direct that money instead to Pat Freiermuth on July 20, so be it. Speaking of knowing better, I was shocked to see that so many supposedly mainstream media outlets took the cheese on the bullshit Kendall Lamm quote that was on some website I'd never heard of, that just made up a quote that he supposedly gave to ESPN about his time with the Miami Dolphins. Lamm, now a member of the Eagles, supposedly said, "I understand why the Eagles reached 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. Players are never late, never toxic, and after every practice, the team spends 15 minutes sharing personal struggles to stay mentally sharp. That's something I never got with the Dolphins." I'm sorry, but if you don't immediately realize there's something fishy about that quote, then you shouldn't be in this business. It's obvious from reading that. And I know it's easy for me to say it because we know it's fake. You look at that, it's like, it just, something ain't right here, folks. We all got to have, the first day of law school, professor said, the best thing I can do for you is give you a crap filter. We all need to have a crap filter. And I know we're looking for things to aggregate and repeat, but man, if it's some website you've never heard of, and if at some level you're looking at that quote and you're saying something's fishy about this, you better listen to those instincts. And if you don't have the instincts to realize when something looks fishy, if you don't have the instincts to think twice when it's some website nobody's ever heard of, and when you go to it, it looks like a cheap fly-by-night chicken shit operation. Sorry, Gary. He's got to bleep a couple of things I've said. Sorry, Gary. But you got to steer clear of it. And look, we do it because I learned this lesson a long time ago when Terry Bradshaw didn't die. When someone died on the Terry Bradshaw passway in Shreveport, Louisiana, and a Shreveport TV or radio station turned that into Terry Bradshaw passed away, and we ran with it, even though the Shreveport station was the one that got it wrong, it stuck to us. And that's what these outlets need to be concerned about. Not how many clicks you're going to get from this. If you're wrong, it sticks to you and it hurts your credibility. I just don't know whether anybody cares about that anymore. All that matters is clickety click click. And look, I understand it's a business, but you still have to have some basic regard for your audience. Don't lie to your audience. That's the fundamental thing. Our duty is to you. We're trying to bring you the truth. We're not going to manipulate you. We're not going to lie to you. We're going to tell you what you need to know, which we will try to do at all times. Are we going to be perfect? No, but damn, we didn't do the Kendall Lamm quotes, so at least we have that going for us. Now, you knew I wasn't going to make it through this episode of PFT PM without giving you an update as it relates to the collusion case. And one of the things we're wondering is, where does it go from here? What happens next? I've been paying attention to and trying to dredge up some sort of a reaction from the union, specifically the players who are in charge of the union, because they should be pissed. I'm sorry, but I'd be pissed if I was a member of the executive committee, if I was a member of the board of player representatives, that this thing was hidden for 5.5 months when it could have been a hammer against the NFL. And I'd want to know why we aren't using this against the NFL. So no developments there yet. As it relates to the league, there has been a development because, look, if these teams are colluding as it relates to players, that's not the end of it. There's other areas where they may collude. I'm a firm believer they've been colluding as it relates to coaching pay for decades. They've held down what coaches make. There's no salary cap. There's no salary floor. There's nothing. So they lock arms and they make sure no one goes crazy and pays a coach $40 million a year, $50 million a year, whatever it may be, because then we have to do it. And every dollar you give to a coach is one less dollar that you otherwise could use for, your super yacht or any other profit. It all eats into your margin because you split the revenue with the players 50-50 and you handle everything out of your end. So if we can hold down coaching pay, we all make more money. And I say that because I received this text message today. I'm going to paraphrase it. For years, every year, The league would share salary data for every position from head coach to general manager to area scout to dietitian to assistant athletic trainer. They'd give you the high, the low, the median, the average for each position in football. This year, when you try to get the information, the response is, we can't do that for legal reasons anymore. We're afraid we might get sued. So there's your first tangible reaction by the NFL. They haven't said anything publicly, and they probably won't, but there's your first tangible reaction. They are taking a look in the mirror at what this means and how else it could hurt them. And it shows you that this ruling did hurt them because it's forced them to change their way of doing business. Now, it did them a favor, right? Oh, because of these meddling NFLPA grievances, we now have to change the way that we share information. No, you were sharing information in a way that was conducive to antitrust violations, conducive to collusion. You shouldn't have been doing that. These are 32 separate businesses that need to decide on their own what they're going to be paying their people, coaches, GMs, everyone. So now, whether or not they're eliminating the practice or just being careful about it, but based upon my source, if this information is choked off, this is someone who would probably be able to get the information. Let me just put it that way. So NFL understanding the impact of this ruling. Will the NFLPA figure out the power it has acquired by virtue of the partial victory in the collusion grievance? A couple of questions before we end this episode of PFT PM. RB Roughnecks, who's the first quarterback to get a fully guaranteed deal or close to it? If not, who's the first owner that offers a shorter term mega contract that contains guaranteed money, but language for restructures cap being pushed back? Okay, I think CJ Stroud is the best candidate to get a fully guaranteed contract. And, I'll repeat something I said yesterday. If you're truly a franchise quarterback, you're not going to suddenly fail to be one. And you don't really need a fully guaranteed contract. Like, I'd rather take dollars than guarantees. If I can get more money, if you're going to offer me something fully guaranteed, and I'm just throwing out numbers here, fully guaranteed, $150 million, not fully guaranteed, $175 million, I'll take the $75 million, $175 million. I'll take the more money because if I'm a franchise quarterback, they're not going to cut me. If they do cut me, somebody else will sign me and give me good money. The problem is Deshaun Watson was the worst possible guy to give a fully guaranteed contract to. He's the rare franchise quarterback who lost it and can't get it back. And then having Russell Wilson tied up in this, he's a guy who lost it and can't get it back. But Lamar Jackson, the way he's performed under his contract, he could have done a fully guaranteed deal. And maybe, the Ravens are stuck under Lamar Jackson's contract. They need him to extend his deal because he's going to get closer and closer to the expiration of his current contract. He's got 3 seasons left. They're not going to be able to tag him. He'll be able to go to the open market. If they want to get him to re-sign, they may have to give him a fully guaranteed contract. And now may be the time to do it. 5 years fully guaranteed as of right now. The problem is you're going to be the pariah. You're going to get the cold shoulder. They're not going to be as nice to you at the league meetings because you're not holding the rope. You're not resisting the effort by the NFLPA to make all contracts fully guaranteed. So this battle doesn't end. And really, whoever does it, and maybe there'll be another collusion case. It all depends on how hard the players push for it. Will the individual agents push and push? And this is another reason why the union needs to put this out there. So the agents know, how do we best go about setting up the NFL for another collusion case? Maybe one that will be ultimately successful. Jordan Davey, wasn't there talk about the NFLPA wanting to start training camp in late June? If so, could they lay the groundwork for maybe a 20-game season with 2 buys and more benefits? The NFL would surely listen, right? Yeah, I think they're eventually going to have 20 regular season games. I don't know when that's going to be. At times, I've suggested the NFLPA should just offer it now in exchange for this. Let's do it. We're going to get nuts. Let's get nuts. But even as it relates to 18 games, let's play this out. The league is going to want, I think, a lot of stuff. in the next CBA negotiations. 18 regular season games, 16 international games per year. They've already made some noise about reconfiguring the way the salary cap is calculated. They may want to give the players a smaller piece of the pie. As the pie gets larger and larger, you can justify giving them a smaller piece because they're still going to have a lot of money. And one of the things they can give the players, and we saw this in 2011, when the CBA was finally done, when push came to shove, the players started asking for a lot of stuff that didn't cost the owners any money. And changing the offseason calendar won't cost the owners any money. Oh, you want to get rid of the offseason program and just show up in late June instead of late July for training camp? That's fine with us. Now, the coaches won't be happy. The coaches love this break as it's currently structured because their kids are out of school. Everything else is slowed down. You know, if you get rid of the offseason program and have training camp start in late June, when do you get your time off? When do you have your break? You've got the draft. You know, there'll be some rookie mini camps. There's work to be done. And maybe it would just change to mid-May until the end of June. I don't know. But the coaches love the calendar the way it currently is. But the owners won't care. I mean, the coaches love the practice rules the way they were before 2011. The owners didn't care. The coaches were pissed. The football people were pissed that the owners agreed to get rid of two-a-days, to reduce padded practices, to reduce off-season workouts. They were pissed off because it makes it harder for them to get their teams ready. But it didn't cost the owners any money. So when it was time to get the deal done and the players are asking for this, that, and the other thing, as long as it was free, owners were fine with it. So a revamped off-season schedule, that may be one of the things that the owners gladly give up. All right, one more real quickly. Who's your short list for the hottest hot seat to get fired this year? And I always run through the divisions in my brain. I think Mike McDaniel of the Dolphins, hot seat. I think Shane Steichen, it's at least reasonably warm because we've got an ownership change in Indy and we don't know how it's going to go. And they've been underachieving in recent years. I would say Brian Daboll. I'm working through this in my head. Brian Daboll, hot seat, although it shouldn't be that way. John Mara, the owner of the Giants, should be fully supportive as they embark on what will be the Jackson Dart era sooner than later. Weird vibe in Green Bay with a new CEO. Matt LaFleur should not, under any set of circumstances, be even remotely close to the hot seat. You know, people think Mike Tomlin would be in trouble in Pittsburgh if they fail to get to the playoffs. I think that would be a massive mistake. I don't think the seat is hot for him, and I don't think it should be, although plenty of Steelers fans would disagree. Beyond that, who am I missing? Am I missing someone? You know, if the 49ers have a disaster of a season, would there be an issue with Kyle Shanahan? You know, there really isn't. And maybe I am missing someone. Maybe I need to make this a full topic tomorrow. Let me do this. Let me be like Judge Wapner. Let me take that under advisement. And for Friday's PFT PM, unless all hell breaks loose, I will do a full analysis of who's on the hot seat, who could be on the hot seat, who should be on the hot seat, and who isn't on the hot seat, even if some fans think he should be. Let's do that tomorrow. For now, I'll say thank you, as always, for some of your time. Check us out around the clock at ProFootballTalk.com. Have a great Thursday. See you on Friday. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.